Hey guys, we got day 12 of Michelle Troconis. Obviously, the big news is that Alex Murdaugh is not getting a new trial, but Becky got her comeuppance. Holy cow, that was not what I expected to happen. But God, she got blown out of the water, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. I think the world now sees her for what she is. I hope she had the look of a completely oblivious person who doesn't realize that everyone now realizes she's a disgusting joke. And yeah, so she's the punchline of the joke and she doesn't know it. So, oh well. But that's it, guys. We got Michelle Troconis, day 12. We're now in the cross-examination. Her attorney is doing a pretty good job at saying, like, it's clear she's not saying exactly the same things every time. Yeah, and even, there's a bit of paraphrasing here and editorializing by the detective, but it's still not looking good. I mean, they're trying to talk to her, and the whole yes, I have the story, and yes, and she doesn't have a good story. It's not sounding convincing. Yes, Becky is a hoe name. So let's get started on this and see what happens from here. Maybe it gets better. Unhung Hero for $2 though says, "Oh, I'm gonna come." Don't come. Don't come. So, all right, guys, here we go. Day 12. Hold on one second.
Indicated to the court that she had received a voice message from regular juror number 62. And the message was that juror number 62 had to attend to an emergency and had to leave the country today. As a result, juror number 62 has to be replaced out of the alternate pool. The court has discussed this with counsel and has indicated that it would have Madam Clerk draw the name of an alternate to replace juror number 62. Now, if counsel wishes, they can inspect the names of the jurors who are in the alternate pool who have been included in that draw, if you wish to do that. Attorney Felsen, Attorney Schoenhorn. Do you wish to inspect the names in the draw?
No, Your Honor, I'm familiar with those names.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, you can draw a name and just indicate the alternate juror's number, but not the name.
Okay, you guys can laugh at that, but that's how you do it. Like, we're going to pick... Some courts do it that way, where it's random, or you have 12 jurors lined up, then 13, then 14, and you just slide down one seat. Juror number 13 now fills the hole. Bet Businessman would like to do that too. But some places they do this, where they shake it all up and they throw them in the pool. There are still some places where, and some judges still do this, where the entire jury pool, like I think for the Crumbly trial right now, sits and they don't pick the seat. They don't seat the jury members for deliberation until the end. So sometimes this isn't a big deal. But this medical emergency, they had to leave the country. Like, there ain't a whole lot you can do at this point. You got to keep the trial going. So we'll see.
399.
Thank you. So alternate juror 399 is now a member of the regular jury. Are we ready to proceed?
May we just approach for a moment?
Yes.
Okay, so we're now having a sidebar. I think they're figuring out what they're gonna do. Let's skip ahead here. Come on. Okay, they forgot to unmute. Ooh, they're gonna sit that juror. They gotta swear him in. So
The state's witness under cross-examination. You can bring in Detective Kimball.
my name is John Kimball. I'm a cop, you idiots. Ooh, no closed captioning today, guys. Sorry.
Good morning. You may be seated, Detective Kimball.
Yes, abuse that like button.
Good morning, sir.
Abuse.
Morning, Attorney Schumer.
You know, in looking things over the weekend, I realized recall that weather.us map that I showed you?
Yes.
I realized it had Central Time on there. I don't know if you noticed that. So I took the liberty of going back to weather.us to get Eastern Time for 11:59 on the evening of May 23rd. I'm going to put that up. I understand that there's no objection to Exhibit L.
That's for 12:59?
Yes.
For 1 a.m.?
Judge, I have no objection to defense L.
Defense L admitted as a full exhibit.
And if we could just put that screen on for a second, all right? So if you look at storm tracking from weather.us and you see that the lines indicate the direction of storms, you see that?
Yes.
All right, and you see, if you look, you see the map we see up on the wall there, you have the Connecticut border way up at the top there.
Yes.
And you see the storms heading south, correct? According to those red lines, the moving direction. You see down at the bottom?
Yes.
And red means heavy storms, correct?
Yes.
And if I could just have the point it at the screen for a second. And you see that West Hartford is right here and Farmington is right about here, correct?
Yes.
You had also told us that you used weather underground for that time to determine that there weren't any storms in the area of Farmington, West Hartford, correct?
So I used weather underground for 1 o'clock, 12:59, to determine that there was, well, to find out if there was precipitation.
On May 24th between 12 and 1, correct?
Correct, and this is 11:58.
Well, this is May 23rd, right?
Correct.
All right, so it's 12, just before midnight on the 24th, correct?
Correct.
And you said that the weather underground that you used was from Brainerd Airport, right?
Yes,
Now, Brainerd Airport is the old city airport in Hartford along the Connecticut River, right?
yes,
Now, Bradley Airport is the big Connecticut airport up in Windsor Locks, isn't that right?
yes,
And the Bradley Airport is closer to this location of Fort Jefferson Crossing than Brainerd Airport on the Hartford, East Hartford line, right?
I believe so. I'm not 100% sure of that. I'm not that familiar with that area.
You did not look at weather underground for Windsor Locks, where Bradley International Airport is, did you?
Trying to remember. I am not sure which I looked at, to be honest with you, whether it was Bradley or Brainerd.
All right. Do you recall, though, whether you looked at the one from Bradley? Would looking at a document perhaps refresh your recollection? I just have this marked for, well, I'm going to show it to you first. See if this might refresh your recollection. I realize it's little, but you have glasses on. So
Yeah.
you can read it, all right.
Yes, it does refresh my recollection.
So in looking at, that at Bradley Airport, there were thunderstorms in the area, including heavy thunderstorms that early morning of between 12 and 1 a.m., right?
Can I look at that one more time?
Sure.
Yes, guys. Weather is
Thank
something
you.
the courts can take notice of, unless it becomes a big factual issue. No, Darcy, she's been out on bond for multiple years now, since 2020.
It is small.
It is small.
So small.
You've had a chance, and I'll mark this for ID, please. That would be
M.
M as in Mary, ID. So having reviewed that, does that help refresh your recollection that between 12 and 1, there were in the area of Bradley International Airport, heavy thunderstorms reported?
There was a spike in the precipitation, yes,
Right around that time, correct?
correct.
And just the kind of thing maybe a 12-year-old might get frightened of at 12 or 1 in the morning, being woken
Check,
up.
Judge.
Well, sustained.
Each time that you met with Michelle Troconis, you continued to gather information concerning your investigation, correct?
Correct.
When I say you, I don't mean just you. I mean entire squads and teams of investigators, right?
That's correct.
You were working in conjunction with the New Canaan Police Department, right?
Right, correct.
You were able to call on troopers and detectives from the Hartford Central District Major Crime Squad, correct?
Correct,
You were working with members of the Western District Major Crime Squad from Litchfield, right?
correct.
Troop G in Bridgeport,
Yes,
perhaps even Troop A in Southbury,
yes,
All the police.
as well as road troopers from the various barracks, correct?
correct.
They assisted throughout this investigation, right?
Yes,
Gathering information,
yes,
working with other officers,
yes,
collecting information from various sources, right?
correct.
You had, at the time you were talking with Ms. Troconis on the first occasion in June 2nd of 2019, you had at that point already the benefit of some phone records, right?
Yes,
You had Mr. Dulos's phone records, right?
we had Mr. Dulos's phone, the Cellbrite report from his physical handset, yes.
And Cellbrite is a program, right? Isn't that what that is? You're calling it Cellbrite. We're not talking about Celebrite as like celebrate. It's a computer program, right?
Yes,
And it's used to be able to open up and look at things that are on a phone, a cell phone, right?
yes,
You can look at phone calls,
Everything
right?
that's on Cellbrite.
Yes.
It's a whole
If
dump.
they exist still, text messages,
yes,
internet searches,
Pictures. everything.
photographs that have been taken with that device,
yes,
photographs that may have been downloaded to that device that someone else sends,
yes,
emails,
yes,
as well as geolocation, that is GPS location for various points where that phone activates, correct?
yes,
In addition, by the time you were talking with Ms. Troconis, you had some video surveillance, some of which we've already seen, correct?
yes,
Some of it was from the cameras you pointed out and talked about from Albany Avenue in Hartford, right?
yes,
Some were Ring doorbell and other home surveillance devices that residents had, correct?
So you say when we spoke to her on, I'm assuming the second, June, the first interview.
Yeah.
We eventually definitely got Ring doorbell. I'm not sure on which specific date we got some of those videos. So I don't know if we had them at that point, Counselor.
You also had some interviews by that point, correct?
Oh, yes,
Especially, I had already asked you, and I'm not going to get back into it, but members of the Farber family, correct?
yes,
You'd also had obtained some forensic information besides the cell phone, right?
yes,
You had some lab work done, right?
yes,
You had some initial reports about DNA, correct?
correct,
And you had assembled all of that information through the various members of law enforcement in order to know what you were going to ask Ms. Troconis on June 2nd, and again on June 6th, right?
we formulated a game plan for questioning her, yes. That's what you're asking.
Right. In other words, you actually came up with some kind of I won't call it a flow chart, but you had points you wanted to cover. Isn't that right?
Fair to say yes.
You had talked to the state's attorney's office as well, right?
Yes,
You did not share the information. Well, let me rephrase that. You didn't share all of the information that you had with Ms. Troconis, did you, when you talked to her?
no,
You did share some information, correct?
yes,
And some of the information that you shared with her turned out to be inaccurate. Isn't that true?
fair to say yes.
As a detective, we started to get into this, but I wanted to explore this a little more. You have actually been trained in investigative techniques, right?
Yes,
At least when dealing with adult suspects, adult witnesses, you are allowed to make up stuff, aren't you? To them.
yes,
You're allowed to provide false information as a means of trying to elicit information from that individual, right?
Yes, correct.
So, for example, it's not in this case, but if you had told a suspect that someone else was confessing against them, you would be hoping that would elicit that person to say, oh, it wasn't me, I was just the standby, it was that other person. Isn't that a regular technique that's used?
Yes,
And sometimes if you have two people in custody at the same time, you have one detective saying the same thing to that other person, seeing who's going to talk first, right?
yep, yes,
Now, as I understand it, at the same time that when Ms. Troconis was placed in custody, Mr. Dulos was at the station, the New Canaan Police Station, for some of that same time, correct?
yes, that's correct.
He was then transported elsewhere after processing, right? He
Yes.
didn't stay there.
That's correct.
But Ms. Troconis stayed at the New Canaan Police Station, right?
Yes,
She was kept in a cell overnight
yes,
and for the next morning
yes,
until the next afternoon.
yes.
When you told Michelle Troconis that you had information that there were 30 stops along Albany Avenue disposing of garbage, you have conceded in a question to Mr. McGinnis that that was inaccurate, right? It wasn't a true statement, was it?
It was inaccurate, you're correct. It was an inaccurate statement.
Someone had told you that it was 30, or was that just a technique to come up with a number?
No, I was provided information that it was that
But you
number.
don't know who it was that told you that?
No, I don't recall specifically.
But you did actually swear in an affidavit that it was 30 stops, didn't you?
Yes,
So you at least thought it enough to swear to something under oath, even though it turned out to be untrue, right?
that's correct.
And you later corrected that in a supplemental report, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You also told Ms. Troconis that you knew that Fotis Dulos was down in New Canaan in the morning of May 24th, 2019. You remember saying that in that first video, June 2nd?
Trying to remember whether I said that or whether we said that we both believe she was not being honest with us.
Well, I want to be more specific. Didn't you say you knew where he was because of, quote, science, unquote, that he was not in Farmington, but in New Canaan? The word science, both you and Detective Clabby use that, right?
Just object, Judge. I don't believe that the detective said that. I think it's a mischaracterization.
Well, the question is essentially, well, it's a leading question. You said that essentially science showed certain things. And so what is the objection?
Well, if I can just have a moment, Attorney Schomburg.
No, right. I thought I had clarified. It was, if it wasn't you, it was Detective Clabby that said it. I believe you both said it, but at least in your presence, Detective Clabby used that line, isn't that true?
I remember Detective Clabby using that.
Okay,
I don't remember using it personally.
fair enough. Did Detective Clabby, when he was did you discuss this with Detective Clabby before he said that?
Discuss his use of the word science,
Yeah.
not specifically the use of the word science, no.
Did you understand him, though, to mean the DNA exam that had been done by the lab at that point?
Which DNA done?
The state forensic lab, DNA results down in New Canaan that suggested there was some DNA, a small amount of DNA found on the faucet and maybe a doorknob.
Yes,
That's what you were understanding, what was being suggested to Ms. Troconis at that moment, correct?
that's correct.
Now, there were no fingerprints of Mr. Dulos down inside that house, were there, found?
No,
In fact, the only fingerprints you were aware of turned out to belong to one of the New Canaan police officers that went in there, right?
Because they didn't use gloves.
That's correct.
Now you know why they made the cops admit they did dumb stuff.
Michelle Troconis talked to you on that first date for at least 2.5 hours, correct?
Correct, yes.
She tried to explain things to you, right?
She spoke with us and she had an account of the day.
She had an account and she had at least an explanation for some of her activities, right?
Yes,
I noticed from the video that often either you or Detective Clabby would interrupt her mid-sentence. Did you notice that?
at times, yes.
Now, is that part of the interrogation technique to sort of interrupt and redirect?
Yes,
You also told her that some things were, quote, not important, unquote, that she was trying to explain to you. Isn't that true?
the specific words I'm trying to recollect, but there were things that she was telling us that were of lesser importance.
I'm referring specifically to the license plates that were recovered from the sewer drain.
Okay,
Do you remember Mr. Troconis telling you she didn't know anything about those license plates or what was in the FedEx envelope, and she had never seen that Suburban? Do you remember that conversation?
yes.
Do you remember saying to her, or maybe it was Detective Clabby, well, that's not important, that's not relevant?
I don't remember that.
Was it also part of your training to have two separate detectives asking questions and peppering a person with questions at the same time? And I don't mean at the
Yes.
same time, but I mean one after another.
Objection to the form, Judge. Peppering.
Well, the court is going to sustain the objection, but that is not foreclosing
Only to form.
the line that would lead to cross-examination techniques that could amount to what counsel describes as peppering.
I will ask a question a different way. Was it part of your training as a technique to have more than one officer directing questions one after another to a single person who's being interrogated?
That's not the best way to conduct an investigation or an interview.
It isn't the best way, is it? If you're trying to elicit information, it's not the
Ooh,
best way,
he still
right?
got you there.
Correct,
But there's nothing wrong with it, right?
correct.
You were still trying to get at information that maybe would lead to saving Jennifer Dulos, right, at this point?
We were trying to locate, yes, Jennifer.
And if
And
he's
I
allowed
just
to be
want to
wrong,
be
why
clear
can't
about
Jennifer
one
or
specific
Michelle?
point. When you told Michelle Troconis that you had proof or evidence that Fotis Dulos was not home at 6:40 in the morning, as she said, that was a interrogation technique statement, wasn't it?
We had his DNA on a faucet
But you,
at the crime scene.
right, but
So we
you,
didn't-
you know a lot about transfer DNA. You've learned about transfer DNA, right?
Yeah,
You
yes,
knew it was a minor, not a major amount of the combined DNA on that faucet, right?
Subject, Judge. I think it's hearsay.
Well,
Mm,
the question now goes to
what he knows,
this witness's
Knowledge.
knowledge
which is not hearsay.
about transfer DNA and amounts. And so
It's a lot to ask. Let it
the
go.
question is, you know about, and the answer can be, no, I don't know about, or yes, I do. So the court's going to overrule the objection.
just re-ask the
Sure.
question. Counselor.
Well, you understood that there was a minor and a major contributor, that is more than one person's DNA mixed together on that faucet, right? You knew that at that point.
I understood that there was more than one person mixed together.
You also knew when you're questioning Michelle Troconis at that point that you knew that Fotis Dulos had been there at a picnic out in the backyard a day and a half earlier than May 24th, right? On the 22nd.
Outside of the house, yes.
Right, but there was food, right? You knew that.
Yes,
There was
yes.
silverware and plates and all that stuff,
You know,
right?
the reason that
Yes.
he could have possibly been in the house.
And you were aware that for part of that time, Jennifer Dulos and Fotis Dulos had interacted during that event at the house down in New Canaan, right?
Yes.
You also told Michelle Troconis that she would have to know what happened to Jennifer Dulos, right?
Yes.
Was that because she was living with Fotis Dulos that you said that?
Partially.
Was it because she was dating him at the time?
Partially.
Do you think that from what you had already told us about what you had learned about Fotis Dulos, that he was finally revealing his true self to this girlfriend?
Just gonna object, Judge.
That's what he said.
Grounds.
Speculation.
That's not what he said in the video.
I'm asking what he believed and thought
It's
during the
irrelevant.
questioning.
It's also irrelevant.
Well, it's not.
Well-
It's 100% relevant.
If the court is to credit counsel's representation, the line of the questioning is, did you believe that Michelle Troconis either knew where Fotis Dulos was or knew more about what had happened to Jennifer Dulos than she was telling them? You believe that in part because, this is how the court understands the testimony. One, she was Fotis Dulos' girlfriend. Two, she was dating Fotis Dulos, living at his house. And now the court understands this is number three. So again, the court understands this line to explore the reasons that
And they're valid
Detective Kimball would say certain things to Michelle Troconis. Overruled.
Counselor, would you
Yes,
just
exactly.
repeat the
Did
question,
you
please?
believe that Mr. Dulos was
God, I
finally
love
going
this
to
judge.
reveal his true self to this particular girlfriend?
I'm not sure what you mean by that question.
Well,
You're playing stupid.
the fact that you asked her, she had to know what had happened. Was it in part because you believed that Dulos would have revealed his true self and what he was really like and suddenly be open with this particular girlfriend?
We believed, given the totality of their relationship, that she would know more than she was giving, more information than she was providing us.
Okay, fair enough. But she kept telling you that she did not know, didn't she?
She did.
She told you she didn't know what Fotis Dulos was up to that day, correct?
Yes.
She told you she didn't even know he had gone to a picnic party in the backyard of Jennifer Dulos' house 2 days earlier, right?
That's correct.
She told you this at least, as I counted, at least 6 times. Isn't that right?
I didn't count them, but that sounds accurate.
Does sound accurate.
Does sound accurate.
Michelle just didn't tell you that she didn't know. She offered to help you search, didn't she?
In those words, she did, yes.
Well, she did more than just words. Didn't she say she would dig holes? Isn't that one of the things she
She
said?
did say that, yes.
And she would trek through the woods, right?
In the interview, yes. Yeah.
She drew some pictures for you, which I believe we see on the screen where you're on June 6th, where she's showing you some pictures, right?
Yes,
You looked at those pictures, didn't you?
yes.
And I'm going to again ask that exhibit L, if I could have the images, please. The drawings. I'm just going to ask this is on exhibit L, but okay. So this is labeled 2581 on exhibit L, and I'm just going to have you can see it in front of you there, right?
Yes, I can.
So this is a drawing that Mr. Troconis said she drew, right? And gave to you, right?
Yes,
It shows Jefferson Crossing, right?
correct.
It shows Eli Road here.
Yes,
It shows Old Mountain Road, right?
yes,
And she drew pictures of the various properties in the immediate area that Mr. Dulos owned through the Ford Group, correct?
correct.
She even talked about properties that she referred to as Mr. Godfrey, that is property he wanted to develop, isn't that right, on Old Mountain Road down the street here?
Yes,
And then this is Mountain Spring Road here, correct?
yes,
So other than the short jog, there's a jog from Eli Road to Mountain Spring Road, there's a stop sign here and there's a stop sign there, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And it's just maybe about 50 feet from Eli Road to Mountain Road, right?
I don't know the footage, but
You were only there a couple of times, I take it.
correct, I'm not
Okay.
that familiar with it.
But then she also talked about you pass another through road called Talcott. It's
Talcott
actually
Notch.
Talcott Notch Road,
Talcott
right?
Notch Road, correct.
And then she drew all these other properties, lots and houses that he either owned or was building on along Mountain Spring Road, right?
Correct,
It was all just down, shall we say, downhill from Fort Jefferson Crossing, right?
yes,
And if I could have the other image, please. She also drew another picture. This one is labeled. I want to get the right ID on these. Oh, got it. It's just page 2 of 215. All right. She drew pictures showing the property along it's like the reservoir, the water company property, correct?
MDC, correct.
Yeah, MDC, for the people that live down this part of the state, means Metropolitan District Commission, right?
Correct,
They're the quasi-public water utility company that owns thousands of acres of land
over
up in
6,000.
Hartford and Litchfield counties, right?
Yes,
And that's the source of multiple reservoirs that feed the entire Hartford area, right?
correct,
So she drew these pictures showing where there were fields and where she drove her motocross motorcycles with Fotis, right?
yes,
And sometimes with Pavel Gumieni, correct?
yes,
She showed you all of this and gave you these pictures, right?
yes, you did.
Now, this picture, page 2, she offered to walk the next couple of days with her attorney and state police detectives going through where they went through the woods, right?
Yes,
In fact, we show her saying, well, she needs a different pair of shoes because she can't get back into her house to get hiking boots because it's muddy and rocky, right? Didn't she say that?
well, she said she needed other shoes, and she wanted to get other shoes, and separately, she said that the terrain was a lot of logs, a lot of rocks. Yes,
And she also showed you that she had on an ankle bracelet, so it was very difficult to even get shoes that she could wear to go hike through there, right?
yes,
But she actually did, didn't she? Went in the woods, didn't she?
she did.
with her attorney, who wasn't too happy, as we can see in that video, right?
Yes, correct.
He had to rearrange his court schedule, right?
Yes.
But Attorney Bowman went with her, didn't he?
Yes.
And at least one, if not more, detectives, right?
Yes.
She also agreed that she would help look anywhere, didn't she, that you wanted her to?
During which interview? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to recollect. There were a lot of things said in each of the interviews.
Right, between the first and the second, maybe more in the second interview.
I think it's fair to say she would, yes.
And she said she'd go anytime, right?
Yes.
In fact, she said, as often as you want, if it takes a year. Didn't she say words to that effect?
I remember the mention of the word year. I'm not sure the context of it.
During these interviews that you had with her, we'll start with June 2nd. Did she ever say, no, I want to stop, I'm done?
No.
You were aware that it got very hot in that room at the New Canaan Police Station, right?
Yes.
And at one point you hear that you had to take a break because it had gotten so hot and muggy and stifling in that room, right?
We took a break and we mentioned that it was warm. I'm not sure we took the break because of the.
This is a very good
It was
cross-examination,
mentioned,
guys.
the environment in the room was mentioned, definitely.
You heard Mr. Bowman get up and go, oh, it's hot. Remember him
Yes,
saying
I do
that,
remember
right? And you heard Ms. Troconis say, I'm getting dizzy, right?
I don't remember that. I don't remember her saying that.
Okay. So if it's on the video, it's on the video.
If
But
it's-
the point being, she didn't say, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. You went back and there was at least some more interrogation after that, right?
Yes,
Questioning.
yes.
You asked her about Fotis Dulos close cropping his hair. Is that right?
Yes,
And she's the one who volunteered to you that she's the one who had shaved his head at his request, right?
yes,
She also told you he had done it before for water skiing, right?
he had done it before in 2017, yes.
Well, he'd done it 2017, he'd done it in 2018 too, right?
I don't remember 2018. I know that she said he had done it at least once before, and I think she said 2017.
Until she told you she was the one who shaved his head. You didn't know that, did you?
No, we did not.
There's no video of that, right?
Of the shaving of the head? No.
There's no surveillance of that showing her with a razor or a electric razor or a straight razor or anything, right? Doing that.
Video surveillance? No.
Now, you were aware by this time that when she told you he did it for water skiing, you knew that Fotis Dulos was a competitive water skier, right?
Yes.
That he actually competed around the world, right?
Yes.
As did Michelle, right? You knew that as well.
Yes.
She also told you that in the video, in the interview, that there were pictures of him on Instagram from prior years with his, water skiing with his head shaved, right?
Again, I don't specifically remember her saying that. I know he had an Instagram account.
Did you go through the account and look for those kind of pictures or not?
I did. I don't remember seeing him with his head shaven.
Okay, all right. There are a number of questions about what Fotis did the night before the 24th. Do you remember those questions in the interrogation?
Yes.
Michelle told you there had been a dinner party, didn't she?
Yes,
She named the people who were at that party, didn't she?
yes,
She told you about Stefan Reich, right?
correct.
And his girlfriend Beth Johnson, right?
Yes,
She told you that Stefan Reich was one of Mr. Dulos's or the Four Group real estate agents, right?
with Coldwell Banker, yes.
What's that?
With Coldwell Banker, yes.
Yes, but one of the agents that worked on marketing the properties and the houses that he owned and built.
Yes,
She also told you about Robert Hutch Haynes, right?
yes,
And his wife Erin, I guess it's spelled Aaron, not Erin, even though it was his spouse, female spouse, right?
correct.
You checked, as a result of what she said to you, you did check these things out to confirm them, right?
Yes,
And they were confirmed, weren't they?
I was going to object, Your Honor, calls for hearsay.
Well, the question is essentially, you confirmed them. That's the question, overruled.
Right?
they were confirmed by yes, they were confirmed.
Okay. You also checked in with, she told you about who his closest friends were, is that right?
Yes,
Some of them cooperated with you, right?
yes,
Some did not, right?
that's correct.
Some refused to talk to you, of his friends.
That's correct.
Michelle told you that she saw attorney Kent Mawhinney in the office after she got back from taking her daughter to school on the 24th, didn't she?
Yes,
She saw him up in the office, correct?
yes,
She also told you that the reason that she thought that that Fotis was home is because, one, she saw Kent Mawhinney in that office that morning, right? One reason.
would you re-ask it?
Sure.
Please.
She told you that one of the reasons she thought Fotis was up in the office that morning when she got back is because she saw attorney Kent Mawhinney in the office, right?
I know she said she saw Kent, and I know she said that Fotis had told her there was going to be a meeting.
Well, that was going to be that's
Your
why I
next
broke it up.
question.
Yes.
Uh,
But let me rephrase the question for you. I'll start it the reverse. She indicated to you that the previous evening, Mr. Dulos told her that is Fotis, had a meeting with his attorney in the office the next morning.
on the
right?
24th.
On the 24th.
Yes,
She also told you she saw Kent Mawhinney in the office when she went to get her computer, right?
Oh, real quick.
she first saw both of
Kent Mawhinney is another attorney who's a conspirator as well. He's got a separate trial. He's still alive. So that's when you hear about talking about Kent. Fotis and Kent apparently hashed all this together. So, but this is a very good cross-examination. You know,
them, and then she saw Kent and heard.
Well, she said in her mind that she first said she saw him, but then she said that, in fact, she just assumed he was there because she saw Kent. Didn't she correct herself?
She changed her story or her account, yes.
Well, you can call it change, correct, whichever, but she eventually told you that she didn't actually see him in the office, but she was sure she saw Kent Mawhinney, right?
That's correct.
Now, specifically, I want to show you a clip from the June 2nd interview, and I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions about that. You said that, well, let me just ask you this first, all right?
Mhm.
Do you recall Detective Clabby saying there's no way he, that is Dulos, was home because he had never been in that home, meaning down in New Canaan. And we found what we found through science. Do you remember those were his words?
I do remember that, yes.
Okay. And I asked you before, I was kind of just using general words, but you do remember that statement being made, right?
Yes,
And again, at that point, you're talking about this DNA, right?
on the faucet at
On the
69
faucet.
Wells Lane, yes.
Correct. Which you had already gotten a rush result from the lab saying there was a mixture of DNA and that was one of the sources, right?
In blood, yes.
Well, they didn't test the DNA for blood, though, did they?
Test the DNA for blood?
Yeah, that was touch DNA on the faucet, wasn't it?
Object, Your Honor. Foundation
It's,
Well,
mischaracterizes.
well,
Bad question.
certainly doesn't-
because of the response by the witness, which was, as the court heard it, blood DNA, there is a question as to whether the witness knows the difference. So because of the witness's response, the court is going to sustain the objection.
There was no evidence from the lab that Fotis Dulos's blood was in that DNA on the faucet, was there?
There was a mixture of Fotis Dulos and Jennifer Dulos DNA.
Right. But not Fotis Dulos's blood, right?
Okay, I'll concede that.
Okay. You're aware that you
He
can
knew-
have skin cell DNA, right?
He knew exactly what they were getting at, and he played retarded. And now look at him, arms crossed, like, yeah, I'll concede it.
Yes,
And you could have DNA from bodily fluids, right?
yes,
And you could have DNA from blood, right?
correct.
And the lab can tell the difference, right?
Object, Your Honor.
Well,
I'll
what the
withdraw.
lab can do is essentially beyond this witness's
That's
ability
true.
to
I will.
discuss, sustain.
Now, as of June 2nd, as far as science was concerned, you were also aware that Jennifer Farber Dulos's phone had been connected by Bluetooth to her Suburban at 3:58 in the afternoon that May 24th. Isn't that correct?
I don't remember being aware of that, no, Counselor.
Was looking at a document that was addressed to you, perhaps refresh your recollection?
Perhaps, yes.
I'm going to show it to council.
Well, I think I object, Your Honor, to the question
I haven't
because
shown it to the witness yet. I'm just courtesy
Well-
showing it to the witness.
Well, the question had
he
to
has to
do
show the
with,
state.
well, the question had to do with whether there was a Bluetooth connection on the afternoon, 3:58, on the afternoon of the 24th, of Jennifer Dulos's phone to the Suburban. And the question is, weren't you aware of that?
As of June 2nd. And he said he didn't recall, and I was going to show him this document to refresh his recollection. So I don't believe there is at this point an appropriate objection until I show it to the witness.
Well, what counsel said was, would showing you a document that was directed to you help refresh your recollection? And the objection is,
He can proceed, Judge. I might have an objection once the question's asked.
thank you.
May I approach?
Yes.
Okay. To be fair, I am guilty of this all the fucking time. I object, Your Honor. He hasn't asked a question yet. I still object. He hasn't asked a question yet. I've done that a bunch, and God, I'll probably do that forever. I get out in front of stuff. It's like, well, he hasn't asked a question yet, but I still object. But you know, and that's the other party's like, but you know what I'm going to ask, and I'm like, fine. and they ask an objection. It's like, I know what the fuck you're doing. But I understand that that prosecutor, I'm glad I got in trouble. I totally understand. I've been that guy.
See if this refreshes your recollection. Don't read it out loud, just
Nope,
read it to
I won't.
yourself.
Fuck is he reading? It's taking a while. Get down, you are cold. Jesus, Clyde. Cold and wet, buddy.
Recall seeing that, right?
Don't recall seeing it, but I've just read it.
Well, did it refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Okay. So my question, I'll mark this for ID. So when it comes to the issue of science,
What is
you
it?
were aware that Jennifer Dulos' cell phone had connected by Bluetooth to her Suburban at 3:58 p.m. on May 24th, correct?
I object, Your Honor. Assumes facts not in evidence, calls for hearsay.
Well, we
I'd
have
like
to
to
walk
withdraw.
backward
Yeah.
in order to
You don't know what he doesn't know.
analyze
The
the
evidence.
objection. The question was, were you aware, the original question, were you aware that Jennifer Dulos' phone connected by Bluetooth at 3:58 in the afternoon on the 24th of May? The response was, there was no memory of that. Counsel then refreshed recollection. The witness said he's read it. He doesn't remember receiving that document. And now the question, counsel, is,
He then said he remembers the information. He did say that. And then I was going to ask him, when they were talking about science, did they include the fact that the phone had connected by Bluetooth at 3:58 in the afternoon?
and the objection is facts not in evidence.
Yes, Judge, and also it relies on hearsay information.
That is the
I don't know.
evidence you're
Well,
trying to
well,
elicit.
Well, the question is, really, this is the
But he's trying to elicit that statement out of the guy, assuming a fact, not in evidence. What? He's allowed to introduce evidence. I don't. Hearsay's his go-to. Well, yeah, to be fair though, but like 95% of objections are hearsay related, and Rule 803 hearsay is like got 27 exceptions. So, I think that's not a bad thing. And facts not in evidence is generally kind of like a number. It's a very common one as well. So I don't think that's too bad. So, but anyway, let's see where we're going. I don't know where this is going.
basic question. Did you discuss that information with anybody else who was involved in the investigation? That seems to be the question.
It has to do with when he's asking and making statements, the two of them, because who says what, they're both together, are speaking to Ms. Troconis, and they're telling her certain information, and they're not telling her certain information. I'm just eliciting that this was a piece of information they'd had for at least several days.
And the objection is facts not in evidence. Again, the court sees the basic question as this. As the court understands the offer, if this is the information that you had concerning the Bluetooth connection, did you discuss that at the June 2nd interview with Michelle Troconis? That's how the court hears the offer.
Through the use of the term science, unquote.
Well, that makes the question confusing. The court would sustain the objection if that's the question.
Well,
And that was the question, Your Honor.
So the objection is
All
sustained.
right, I'll ask a different
As
question.
the form. Yeah.
Did you discuss with Ms. Troconis
Yeah, just ask reform it.
that you had had information about the connection of the Farber Dulos cell phone to her Suburban, that is to the Farber Dulos Suburban down in New Canaan, late in the, approximately 4 o'clock in the afternoon on May 24th with Ms. Troconis? Did you discuss that with her?
I don't know that that's Jennifer's phone that connected.
And you don't know that because you need to see the entire lab report?
Off the top of my head, I don't know which phone that is.
Right, but okay, so if you were to look at the diagram of what that phone was, you would be able to answer that, or are you going to say that if there's a bunch of letters and numbers identifying a specific cell phone, you wouldn't be able to answer that question today anyway?
Objection, argumentative compound.
Well, this is now leading to extrinsic evidence
It's also a
of
mess.
a collateral matter.
Oh,
So the court sees that as what's being
that was a bad question, but I think I know what he's trying to get. Like, we all know where he's trying to go. There's not an easy way to phrase that. That makes sense.
offered, and the objection is sustained.
Did you receive an email on May 30th, 2019 from the lab regarding the cell phone connection? Yes or no?
Yes.
But you don't know if it's what the report told you is in fact Jennifer Farber Dulos' phone is what you're saying, right?
As I sit here today, that's correct.
Okay, then we'll deal with that with a different witness.
Okay, that helps. He's kind of rewriting the ship here. We're going to refocus and go forward. That was.
By the way,
pork loin and potato.
again, getting back to this question of the DNA, did you talk to the court supervisor who was present at the house on May 22nd with Mr. Dulos?
Yes.
So you were aware that he was there that night, right? This 22nd?
On the 22nd, yes.
That he was playing basketball with his kids, right?
Yes.
You were aware that he'd given chocolate to his wife?
Judge, I'm just going to object, Your Honor. All of this is hearsay information, and the defense is offering this to prove the truth of the matter asserted. And I don't think it's appropriate through this witness.
If I may respond, everything this witness has been asked is hearsay from other officers. All of a sudden, once hearsay is admitted, then under 8-8, I'm allowed to follow up as if the person making the hearsay was actually present. So all I'm doing is showing what was in his mind as he's asking these questions. So I'm not offering it for the truth, but the fact that he said certain things based on the knowledge that he had received.
At this point, the questions concerning whether the visitation supervisor played basketball and whether he shared chocolate is not relevant.
Well, I'm sorry,
No,
I
it's
didn't
not.
mean whether the supervisor did, it was whether Fotis Dulos did. So if
Yeah,
I'm-
but that's
if
not,
the
you didn't ask
question
that
was
right, man.
vague, I will rephrase it.
Judge, if I may,
Yes.
he
I'm fucking
misstates
lost.
8-8. We talked about this the other day. That 8-8 has no applicability here because, first of all, nothing that was offered on direct examination in terms of knowledge that Detective Kimball had was offered for its truth. So it wasn't offered for a hearsay purpose. So 8-8 really has no applicability at this point whatsoever. And moreover, in order for 8-8 to apply, it needs to be impeachment directed at the specific declarant, not just anything that they've said, whether or not that information came in or not. So counsel misstates 8-8. And I would just note that he actually is offering these things for the truth. And so that is my objection.
Thank you.
Well,
Well, the questions concern at this point whether Fotis Dulos did certain things on the 22nd of May. Again, before we even get to what is hearsay and what is not hearsay, the court fails to see the relevance. If this line continues past where it is now,
Well, that would be my last question. It goes to the issue of the DNA evidence, and then I'll move on. This would be the last question in that line.
Well, essentially, since Fotis Dulos, through the question, was present at 69 Wells Lane on the 22nd of May, doesn't that suggest that his DNA could be found somewhere? The court sees no reason for the litany of questions leading up to that. So at this point, the court's going to sustain the objection. But the question, the court would allow.
So without getting into any of the specifics, you were aware that he interacted with his family on May 22nd down at 69 Wells Lane, correct?
Correct.
On May 22nd.
That works.
Correct.
And you had no proof other than your opinion or speculation that Fotis Dulos was not in his house at 4 Jefferson Crossing at 6:40 in the morning, correct? And I say as of that date.
Right. No, I understand. That's correct.
What we're going to do right now, it's 11:25. We'll take our morning recess until 11:40. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not discuss the case. Thank you.
Okay,
All
so
rise. This honorable Superior Court now stands in recess. You may exit the courtroom.
guys, we're not going to do local checks. We're going to do locals very soon. So, not necessarily going to do that. Oh, I forgot. We're not going at we're going normal speed. Oh, that's no good. We need to get on our gas and go. Okay, so we're gonna. So this is pretty good cross-examination so far. I get where Attorney Schumler's going, but yeah, a couple times that just got really bogged down. But I will say he's a very good cross-examiner. I don't think I'd be able to navigate this as good as he was doing. I'll say that much. So here we go.
Will counsel stipulate, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Was it part of the interrogation technique to tell Michelle Troconis, as you did, that you suspected other people were involved in the disappearance?
No.
Well, when Detective Clavy said a couple of people are involved in this, did you have other potential suspects?
Potential suspects, yes.
Yeah. Did that include Pavel Gumieni?
Yes.
Did it include the friend Andreas Koutsiardis from Greece at that point?
Yes.
Did it include his friend Mark from Providence?
Yes.
I'll be right back, guys.
Didn't Michelle specifically say to you after the comment by Detective Clavy about science that she said, I've always believed he was in the office because that's where he usually is? Do you remember her saying that to you?
Yes, I do.
And she said she wasn't 100% sure, right?
Yes, she had your answer, but yes, for comment, yes.
She did tell you he was usually in the office, right?
Yes.
I asked one of the other detectives, but I didn't ask you. You said you were at the house, right?
When?
At any point.
Yes, at 4 Jefferson?
So you know it's this really large house, correct?
Correct.
And the office is at one end of the house, right?
Correct.
The interior office is over the garages, right?
The four-group office over
Four-group
garage? Yes,
office, yeah.
correct.
And they have a separate entrance that you can go in and out to the office without coming through the main part of the house, correct?
Correct.
When you were in the house, did you go in the house or just go on the outside of the house?
I went in the house.
Were you with other detectives?
Yes.
Were you able to see them at all times when you were in there? The other detectives?
No.
Was it big enough so that a child might call her mother on the phone to come up to her room?
Just gonna object, Judge.
Sustained.
She told you that Fotis would usually have his phone with him, correct?
Yes,
But she also told you that sometimes the power would run out and she went to charge it, right, for him?
she said the power went out on the 24th.
Right, she went to charge it for him, correct?
Correct.
She also told you that May 24th for her was a normal day, didn't she?
It wasn't normal in respect to her sleeping with her daughter, so I'm not sure I'd characterize it. I don't remember her saying that it was a normal day.
Well, we're talking about the night from the 23rd into
Into
the
the
24th, aren't we?
Yes,
So about the
24th.
day.
Okay, the daylight hours.
Right, she had told you again, I don't want to go, I already went through this with you, but you checked out Stop and Shop, right?
Yes,
You checked out, she returned a pocketbook, right?
yes,
She drove her daughter to school, right?
correct.
And she told you that Fotis was acting normal that day, other than doing this little side trip to Albany Avenue, correct?
She did say that, yes.
Now, you were shown the timelines the other day by Mr. McGinnis, weren't you?
Yes,
So on June 2nd, you hadn't seen those timelines, had you?
that's correct.
They were first recovered from a black bag on June 3rd by other detectives, right?
The photocopies were, yes.
Well, I'm going to be clear. There was an original looking document with the purple line that was found in the office, right?
That's correct.
And she told you she hadn't seen that before herself, correct?
She did say that, yes.
And she said she thinks that was Fotis Dulos' handwriting, right?
Yes.
The other two documents were just photocopies, right?
3 documents, right?
There were 3 documents. One was similar to the original that was found, right?
Correct.
The original had some additional writing on it by Dulos, right?
Correct.
She told you none of the writing on that document, either side, was hers, correct? That is the one from Dulos.
Correct.
The photocopies, the other 2 photocopies, she said were in fact hers, right?
Yes.
And she explained that she had heard the lawyer, Jacob, she called him, right?
Yes.
Tranker.
Yes.
Tell Dulos on an open speakerphone, you should keep a timeline of your whereabouts, right?
For Wednesday, May 22nd.
And then Fotis, she told you that Fotis told her the following Tuesday, I believe, that she should write down what she did on Friday, correct?
Correct.
She also told you that he told the same thing to Pavel to do, right?
Correct.
Now I'm going to, at some point, the state took out State's Exhibit 74, showed you a picture of State's Exhibit 74 up on the. And I just want to be clear, I'm going to hold it up for you. I have the purple glove. This is the phone log that you found in the photo that was found on June 3rd in that bag, right?
Correct.
This is the actual photocopy from the house that the evidentiary services unit found, right?
Yes.
So since it's clearer than I think, I'm just going to show it to the jury if I may. And up at the top, it specifically says phone calls,
Correct.
right? And it shows names, right?
Yes.
And it shows outgoing, canceled, incoming, correct?
Yes.
And it names Nicole, right?
Yes.
At 12:59 a.m., right?
Yes.
A 16-second call, right?
Yes.
And it says after that thunderstorm.
Yes.
And the only other one where there's any comment was, it says Ruggs, 38 seconds, spoke with Barbara. She didn't know where Ruggs were. See that?
I do. Yes.
And the phone calls, I'll just note, one of the calls is says it's from somebody named Bruja, B-R-U-J-A. Do you know what that means in Spanish?
I do not, sir.
Which? W-I-T-C-H?
Okay.
All right.
Object, Your Honor. Counsel's testifying.
Well, at this point, counsel is testifying.
right.
So it's clear.
I'll withdraw the question, Your Honor.
Oh, there was no question. You were testifying. You may proceed.
It mentions somebody named Mommy, M-A-M-I.
Yes.
Right? It names Poppy, P-A-P-I,
Yes,
right? Fotis is one of the names on this list.
yes.
When you checked Fotis Dulos' phone, there were times incoming and outgoing that matched up with those times. Isn't that true?
Well, can the witness have the benefit of the document if we're going to ask these types
You
of questions?
have gloves on, right?
I do. So I had to memorize all of Fotis Dulos' phone records.
Of
I recognize some of these times as accurate.
Okay.
She attributes to Fotis.
And just so that the jury also can see it a little bit closer, the other document that she identified as being in her handwriting is in that same Exhibit 74. And I just want you to just confirm that this was the other document which on the video she identified as being something she prepared.
Yes, that's correct.
And may I just publish this to the jury as well? I don't want to put two gloves on, so I'll just. By the way, she told you that she first learned that Jennifer Dulos was missing when the Farmington police came to their house that night, correct?
That's what she told us, yes.
At around 8:15 or 8:30 p.m., right?
8:30, yes.
And that was after she and Fotis had gone to Starbucks, right?
Yes,
It was after Fotis had thrown garbage bags out in Albany Avenue, right?
yes.
She told you about other things she had done during the day, correct?
Yes,
She said she visited her friend Clara Duperon at her own store, correct?
yes,
She told you that she had gone to the Hitchcock Furniture Store in the Canton Shops in Canton, Connecticut, right?
I don't think she went to Hitchcock on that date, on the 24th.
She told you that she had communicated with the Barbara at the Canton Shops that day,
That's
right?
correct.
She told you that when you asked her if anyone else was home when she got back from her errands, she said she didn't see, but the Suburban was there in the garage, right?
That's correct.
I also want to clarify, without, again, putting up more pictures, there were 4 garage doors, correct?
At Fort Jefferson,
At
yes.
4 Jefferson
Yes,
Crossing. There are actually 4 garage doors at 80 Mountain Spring as well, right? But let's just talk about 4 Jefferson Crossing, okay?
Okay.
And I've asked other people, but the office of Ford Group covered both sides of the garage, right? All 4 doors were part of the Ford Group offices, right?
over all 4 bays, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I believe so, yes.
And then it also included an area with the archway. There's a word for it. I can never remember where you can drive through. I forget. It's got a French name for it. Porche to something or other, but alcove, whatever we're going to call it, right? Where cars drove through and parked in the back, right?
That's correct, yes.
And the offices included over that area, right?
Yes.
When you asked her if Mr. Dulos was there when she came back from those errands, and she mentioned the Suburban, she said she didn't look for him, right?
That she had no guarantee.
Right.
Yes.
She also used the words, he probably can be. You remember her saying that?
I do, yes.
So that was her using an improper tense, like grammatical tense, wasn't it?
Yes.
She did say, however, that although she assumed he was in the office, she was not guaranteeing it, right?
Yes.
At some point, she recalls that he did call her for lunch somewhere in the 1, maybe later 1:30 time period, right?
Yes.
Between 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
But she said she couldn't be certain and didn't want to be held to that, right?
Yes.
And once again, at this point, she didn't have her phone with her, so she could check when he called her to have lunch, right?
No, she did not.
So let's just talk about 80 Mountain Spring Road. There seems to be a lot of discussion about 80 Mountain Spring in both the June 2nd and in the June 6th interrogations, right?
Okay.
She told you that Fotis asked her to come bring some cleaning supplies to help clean up, right?
Yes.
And you did know by then that there was, in fact, a real estate showing that was going to happen that next day, the Saturday, the 25th, right?
I'm trying to think if we knew it at that point.
You certainly knew by the 6th, even if you didn't know by the 2nd, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. And you talked to the real estate agent?
Rania? Yes, I did.
Well, somebody talked to Rania, that's her name?
Yes.
Remember her last name?
Because with an M, I don't remember.
Do you talk to the prospective buyers as well, the Pavlonis's?
I don't think they were. I think they were. I don't know if the Pavlonis were buying 80 or 88. So I know that the Pavlonis were spoken to by another detective at some point.
Well, do you recall that the prospective buyer wanted to build a house, but wanted to tour 80 Mountain Spring because it was more or less completed, as to see what kind of house Mr. Dulos could build for them? Is that
Yes.
what else?
Subject, judge calls for hearsay.
I'm not offering for the truth. It doesn't matter whether they were going to build a house.
Court does not hear the question as being offered for the truth overruled.
You remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Even, we've seen some pictures of 80 Mountain Spring. It also was a fairly large house, right?
Yes.
It looks like it may have been an old house that had been gutted and rebuilt and made maybe way bigger than the original house.
Yes.
We see there's actually ivy growing up on the brick, right?
Correct.
Brand new house couldn't have that much ivy growing that fast, right?
True.
She told you that she had gone and cleaned the house with Fotis before, right?
Twice before. Yes.
And we're talking about dusting, we're not talking about scrubbing bathtubs and stuff, right?
She said clean.
It was an empty house, right?
Yes.
You've been in that house, right?
Yes.
It was dusty a little bit, wasn't it?
Yes.
There was still construction debris in there, especially in the basement, wasn't quite finished, right?
Yes.
She told you she brought garbage bags over, right?
Yes, she did.
The large black garbage bags, right?
Yes.
She also told you she brought in a mop, right? Dust mop,
Swiffer?
Swifter.
Yes.
Remember, she couldn't remember what it's
Yeah,
called.
yellow on a stick. Yes.
Yeah, but she couldn't even remember the word for it, the cleaning thing, and she was trying to think of the word in English, right? Remember
Yes.
that
Yes.
from the video? She brought other cleaning materials with her. She didn't remember if it was Clorox or something else, but it was some kind of like surface cleaner, right?
She said Clorox.
Now, before this interview on June 2nd,
Mhm.
Your colleagues had spoken with Pavel Gumieni, correct?
Yes.
And it wasn't a surprise to you, was it, that Michelle was saying that Fotis and she would sometimes tidy up before showing, right?
I don't know that I knew that. No. I don't know.
You learned that from other employees?
On the second?
Yeah. In fact, that very day in the morning.
Judge is going to object again. Hearsay.
Again, it's going to things that were said. It's not being offered for the truth.
Well, this has a different tenor than the previous question that ran into an objection. So the question is, or concerns, cleaning up at one of the properties. The objection, counsel.
So my objection is hearsay, Your Honor. He's indicating that he's not offering it for its truth, Judge. I think at some point that the scales tip in terms of probative value of just continuously offering statements where there's a real danger of bootstrapping them for the truth. At some point, the scale tips, Judge. And my concern is that the defense is essentially trying to prove certain facts through hearsay information. They're claiming it's not for its truth. And that's my objection, is that at some point, the scale tips.
Well, the court hears this question as being offered for the truth. So sustained.
Michelle told you in that interview that he had asked her to come help clean, right?
Yes.
And that was not anything that contradicted any other information you had, correct? From any other employee, right?
Correct.
You also knew, I guess on May 31st, there was a, what I call a trash pull at Fort Jefferson Crossing. Isn't that true?
Yes.
So you knew that Fridays was trash pickup day in that part of Farmington. Isn't that true?
Yes.
It was also the same thing down at 80 Mountain Spring, right?
I don't know that.
Nobody did a trash pull or looked to see if there was a garbage can out on Friday, May 31st?
Judge, can I just object? It's calling for hearsay.
Well, the question, as the court hears it, is, do you know if there was a trash pull at 80 Mountain Spring or any other property owned by the Ford Group? That's how the court hears the question. Do you know if there was a trash pull?
Right.
So if that is the question, the objection is overruled.
Right.
Judge, if I could just be also heard, it's also outside the scope of my direct examination.
It's within the scope of the video.
Well, the video covered a lot of time between the 24th and the date of the video. So the question now is, did trash pull come up during the video, or did it just come up as a result of cross-examination? The court itself cannot recall trash pulls coming up during the video. What the court recalls is that there was testimony, well, in actuality, it was questions concerning trash, but not elicited from Michelle Troconis during the interview. So sustained.
Could you explain what a garbage pull is? You indicated there was one at 40 Jefferson Crossing.
I
What is
object.
that?
Sustained.
She also told you what cars were down at 80 Mountain Spring Road that she recalled on May 24th. Isn't that right?
She reported some of the vehicles that were there. Yes.
She mentioned the Suburban, right?
She mentioned, yes.
She mentioned the Jeep.
The Jeep Cherokee, yes.
She mentioned Pavel's Tacoma,
Which interview are we speaking of?
either the first or the second.
She mentioned Pavel's Tacoma at the end of the first interview.
Okay.
That,
She brought it up on her own, right?
yes.
You didn't ask her about the Tacoma, did you? Before she brought it up.
No.
She was asked more general, is there anything else you want to tell us? And she said, well, Pavel Gumieni drives the Tacoma, right?
We asked her if there were any questions she had for us.
That's right. And she mentioned in that about the Tacoma, right?
Yes.
And she also mentioned that at some point, Pavel showed up in the Raptor, right?
Yes, correct.
At 80 Mountain Spring.
Correct.
She also told you that she had brought a vacuum down to do a little vacuuming, right?
On the first trip, yes.
But it didn't work because the house didn't have central vac, right?
That's correct.
So she had to go back and get the other item, the Swifter or mop or whatever,
She went back to get a broom.
a broom. Okay. She told you also, didn't she, that she didn't really want to be doing cleaning, right?
Yes, she said it in the second interview.
She also told you that different people from the company drove different vehicles at different times, right?
Could you ask that question?
Yeah, that sometimes Pavel would drive the Jeep, right?
Yes, correct.
Sometimes he would drive the Suburban.
Pavel did not drive the Suburban.
I'm saying, didn't Michelle say sometimes he did?
She said that Pavel did not drive the Suburban.
Drove the Raptor.
Raptor, yes,
Okay, Raptor's the Ford pickup truck that we've seen, right?
that's correct.
And you were able to review Ring doorbell surveillance down around, across from 80 Mountain Spring Road, right?
Not Ring,
Or surveillance.
Surveillance,
home
yes.
Surveillance. I'm using Ring as a sort of shorthand, but whether it's Ring or a different company, there was a video surveillance that the family that lived across the street from 80 Mountain Spring owned, right?
that's correct.
And we'll just say that the name of that family is Manafort, right?
Yes,
Okay. And without going to any of the specifics, you were able to review comings and goings, at least into the driveway of that 80 Mountain Spring Road property, right?
yes,
Including the evening before on May 23rd, right?
that's correct.
But you couldn't see who was driving any of these vehicles, right?
Correct,
It's too far away and the angle was such, you can just see the vehicles coming and going, right?
yes,
Now, you were also able to review some surveillance, whether it's Ring or a different company, from a house across the street from 4 Jefferson Crossing, right?
that's
I
correct.
think it's at 1 Jefferson Crossing.
That's correct.
That video system, however, was a motion-activated system, right?
Correct,
It's only captured short 30 or 40-second clips, right?
correct,
Whenever maybe a dog came outside, a cat,
correct,
or a person came in or out.
correct.
Now, at one point, either you or Detective Clabby asked Michelle if she thought that Pavel Gumieni was somehow involved with the disappearance. Do you recall asking that?
Yes,
Now, was that a sincere question, or was that one of these an interrogation techniques?
that was a sincere question.
So he was at least a suspect at that.
Correct,
He had been a longtime employee of Fotis Dulos, right?
Just going to object, Your Honor. Again, calls for hearsay.
Well, the court remembers the interview in which Mr. Kona said that he worked for Fotis Dulos before she even met him. So long time may not be a question that this witness can answer. So the court's going to allow the question.
I don't know for how long Pavel worked for Fotis, but it was longer than he knew Michelle Troconis.
No, he was already working for Mr. Dulos when she even first came up to Connecticut, right?
That's correct.
You were also aware that when she was asked if he was involved, she said she doesn't know, she didn't think so, right?
Yes,
But she also used an interesting expression. She said, but she wouldn't hold her hand to the fire over it. Do you remember her saying words to that effect?
yes,
Did you understand that to mean that she wouldn't swear to it?
yes,
She also told you that Pavel Gumieni had been down in New Canaan that May 24th, right?
that's correct.
And he was supposed to be building one of Fotis Dulos' houses in the town of New Canaan, right?
Yes,
Did you confirm there was a house under construction on a street in New Canaan?
yes,
And you learned the address?
yes,
You also learned there was a doorbell video from across the street that shined, at least from a distance, on that property.
yes,
Again, that was motion activated, not continuous? Or you don't?
I don't remember.
Okay. Let me just go back now to the discussion about Albany Avenue, right?
Okay.
You repeatedly went back to asking Michelle Troconis about Albany Avenue and what she was doing there. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And I want to be specific. There's only one time where you see Michelle admitting that, saying that, yeah, that's her. She leaned out and touched the sidewalk. Remember that?
Sorry, just to check your answer question.
Yeah, I'll rephrase the question. In the videos, which you had watched, right?
Yes.
And you showed her either from the video itself that we're watching, I can't tell if you're showing her a still image or a short video clip. Do you know which it was?
It would be a still, a screenshot.
Okay. But she told you on at least 2 occasions what she was doing, right?
She told us she was leaning out. That's not what she was doing. She was stepping out.
Yeah. And didn't she tell you she was chewing gum? I took it, I spit it, my hand got sticky, and I went like this to clean, and she's moving her hand back and forth like a rubbing motion. You recall that?
I recall that, yes.
You remember, like maybe an hour later, almost during the interrogation, you show her that photo again, and she says, "That's me. I put my gum and I threw it, and it was sticky." Right? When you're talking about the FedEx envelope, and you're asking her about that, right? Remember her saying that?
Yes.
At no time did she say she was picking stuff up off the sidewalk, though, did she?
In retrospect, no, but at the time, it was not clear to us what she was doing.
I mean, it wasn't clear to us. When I just read you what she said, we played that clip. She says, "I took it, I spit it, my hand got sticky, and I went like this to clean it."
I don't know if she's referring to cleaning her hand or cleaning the sidewalk.
Okay. And I put my gum and I threw it, and it was sticky. You remember saying that more than once, though, right?
Yes.
Right. Do you remember there was a point in time that was played the other day where Michelle and Attorney Bowman get up and leave the room and the video was still playing?
Yes.
I want to play that a little bit louder than it was played. If we can, I'm just going to ask that be played up. Make it a little louder so we can hear this portion. And this is let me get the exact time for the record. It's cut off on the screen, so 2:19 and 40 seconds.
Yeah, this will take 3 hours.
Yeah, still got,
Still going?
yeah, still got. Ready to, so we are, looks like we're at 2:20.
We don't know these guys, but I just don't think so. I don't think she does. She's very happy about Starbucks, so let's start for why? If I was gonna go around the same with Richie Colangelo, because we want to make sure that all of our trash because I remember that first time. You want to just slip by mine. We're gonna do it. We got. I'm not saying the trash, but
Unless she's legitimately on the phone, talking and texting, and she's not paying attention. And then
she's outside the car. She's a couple of things. She's
She's outside.
She's open her doors open. She's outside. We check her. So she dropped gum and she realized it was sticky. She had to door. She had to pick it up her gum when she dropped. She's like one person. So she, yeah, I mean, that's maybe she is.
I know. I think she's a better self-preservation too.
Yeah, right, because she's thinking like, but the outcome of our thing wasn't on any of this. And it's sure we had a press on her. We did that fun. Tell me, show her a picture. We didn't find email to the 22nd, which is what the Trent told me. We created it and said Wednesday for Fotis. What we ended up finding was Friday and Saturday. Both. Right. Well, the office not either. Why? Well, we don't mind because they think it was right now. They didn't think we were smart. That's just the question. How we found out? That's not the book. That's why I shaked his head. And this one thing, we didn't think about, nothing trash, leave this one thing. Right? And I believe, I didn't think on that Starbucks to cover that. Sometimes we're going to work and all, that's why I only have. So that's why we're there. That's it. We were at the Starbucks. We feel confident. Oh, that's good. And we're still here. Let's take it for like tomorrow. Let's go for let's go for why not?
So what do you think about that, Hartford story?
We just think, I think the guy was Hartford, but here's the thing, I mean, that's she's breaking it. What? You're talking about.
Yeah, another thing, I don't know if this, it helps in.
We stopped it at, I didn't know at the time, but it's when.
I just want to say this attorney's doing a really good job at, like, yeah, initially all that stuff was looking bad, but now we know a bunch more. Like, she has, she did volunteer information. She's trying to be honest. Apparently, when they were trying to screw with her, they were completely wrong, so they didn't even have the right facts. Like, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. this attorney's doing a really good job. But once again, having those facts, it does wonders with your case. So,
Mr. Bowman and Michelle come right back in, right?
Correct.
So the person that was speaking off to the left that when I played this clip, that was State's Attorney Richard Colangelo, right?
The male voice, yes.
The male voice. The female voice, I think you already mentioned, was Detective Allison
Peters.
Mr. Colangelo said twice, she doesn't know. I don't think that she knows. Do you remember hearing him say that?
Yes.
And all three of you, almost in unison, but at least you can hear all three of you say that she was picking up her gum off the sidewalk.
Yes.
Now, she never used those words even under your interpretation that she was cleaning the sidewalk as opposed to her fingers, right?
If she's cleaning the sidewalk, she's picking up the gum. That was my impression.
Not that she had, her hand was sticky and she was cleaning it. You didn't assume that that's what she was talking about.
I wouldn't think she would clean her hand on a public sidewalk.
At the end, just before I shut it off, the last thing I hear Mr. Colangelo say is that she's great, or words to that effect. Right?
I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear that? Or she'll be great?
I didn't hear the word great.
Was the purpose of any of this conversation for her to be a witness against Fotis Dulos?
So no object, Your Honor. Calls for speculation.
Well, this witness conducted the interview along with
he knows what's going to
three
happen.
other
He can testify.
police personnel. The question is, was this interview designed to get Michelle Troconis to be a witness against Fotis Dulos? Overruled.
Yeah, that's
This interview was designed to obtain full information and truthful information from Michelle Troconis regarding what happened to a missing mother of 5.
So instead of answering my question, you answered that question. So you're saying it was not to have her
gonna
become a
object,
witness?
Your Honor.
That was my question.
It's argumentative.
non-responsive
Overruled.
though.
I don't know what the purpose was. I'm not, my purpose was to obtain the truth.
You don't know what the purpose of Mr. Colangelo was?
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, first, the scene has been set. State's Attorney Colangelo was in the interview room. This witness has testified as to what his purpose was in interviewing Michelle Troconis. The court understands his testimony to be to find out what happened to Jennifer Dulos. The question now is, for what purpose, if you know, was State's Attorney Colangelo there?
Can you answer that question?
Well, overruled.
Did you ask the question?
Sure. Did you know why the State's Attorney Colangelo was present?
No.
Or what his purpose was?
No.
Bullshit. You know, fucking liar. You know.
And just so that I'm clear about what happened right around the time that my client rubbed her hand on the sidewalk, there's no time in that video where she touches that FedEx envelope, correct?
I disagree.
You disagree. You believe that in that video from Albany Avenue, you see her take possession of that envelope.
I believe so, yes.
Did you ever see her touch any of those garbage bags that you see Mr. Dulos dumping?
No.
You see her touch the
Just one
rolled up
thing.
black item that he leans up against the side of Milagros grocery store?
No.
Just one thing he does. Yeah, that's. See, now he wants to. I'm cop. I'm never wrong.
And then I'm also clear in terms of the timing. The place where Dulos puts the envelope with the license plates down the sewer, that's in terms of chronology, the third stop where Mr. Dulos had placed something in the garbage receptacle, correct?
No, I don't agree with that either.
You don't agree he had already made 2 other stops before that?
He had made 2 other stops. I believe he'd made more than 2.
Well, I know you believe it. In terms of what's in the video, there were only the 2 previous ones, right?
When he goes down Milford Street, the back of the Raptor is many bags. When he comes back up, there were very few bags. So obviously he must have stopped somewhere in the interim.
Well, you just made that up, right? That's total speculation, isn't it?
Well,
Objection.
well,
Counsel asked the question. He got an answer.
well, the court is going to indicate what it heard. Well, there are 2 stops in the video. The answer was not a yes or a no. The answer was, I believe there were more stops. So
I would move
the
that as
question, were there 2 stops in the video before the stop on Adams and Albany? The question was not
Oh,
answered.
he got
Whether
him.
there were 2 stops before Albany.
This guy's
and Adams.
upset. He's fucking angry.
May I ask that the non-responsive answer be stricken?
Well, if that's the witness's response, the jury heard it.
You
Yeah,
have no other
like-
video that shows Mr. Dulos stopping his truck anywhere else and getting out. Isn't that true, sir?
That's not true.
Oh, you have more video that the jury hasn't seen. Is that what you're telling us?
Well, objection, Judge. How would this witness know what the jury has and hasn't seen?
Well, the question is, do you have other videos showing other than the 3 stops? The answer, if the court understood it, is yes. The next question.
Have you shared that?
Well,
with-
no, the court is indicating what it has heard. The next question was, have
Uh-oh.
you shared?
So apparently now that's like, oh, there's more stops. I guarantee you he's going to say, I haven't seen them, so what do you have? And he's just, look at this, angry cop. I'm going to go home. He's just like, oh, that's actually not right. I got to do like that really angry eyebrows. It's like, I'm going to kick my dog tonight and beat my wife because I'm mad. He's like, pew, pew. He got him. This guy's angry as fuck right now. He's trying to be like, yeah, there's more evidence. Really? Oh, actually, I don't mean that.
Well, really, the question is, have you shared that video with the state's attorney's office? That's the next question, because this witness wouldn't have the opportunity to share it with the jury.
Sorry, have you shared that, the other videos that you mentioned with the state's attorney's office?
The state's attorney has the video from the, I believe, from the transit bus. That's where the footage is coming from.
Oh,
So have I
yes.
personally shared?
There's no other C4 videos, are there? No other C4 videos other than the 3, correct?
I don't know that.
Were you aware that the video from the transit bus, the individual doesn't have a logo on his shirt? Were you aware of that?
Just going to object, Your Honor.
Well, it's sustained.
By the way, were you ever assigned to the Hartford area as a state police officer at any time?
No.
You're aware that Albany Avenue is a busy thoroughfare?
Yes.
You're aware that it's, this area is very close to Dunkin' Donuts Stadium, the baseball stadium?
I'm not aware of that, no.
You're aware that this is just before you get to downtown Main Street in Hartford?
I'm not familiar with the geography of.
You're aware that it's a major thoroughfare from the suburbs?
Bro, it's Connecticut. How big? Like, I don't know the second smallest state in America. Like, dude, I know the geography of of everywhere but Cincinnati, and then I know the geography of a lot of rural Ohio. Like, I don't know where to go. Connecticut's only like 10 feet wide. I just don't know.
West of Hartford, into Hartford, right?
Yes, yes.
By the way, these garbage cans were on street corners, right?
Correct.
We see traffic going back and forth in the videos?
Yes.
You see pedestrians?
Yes.
They were in plain sight, weren't they? The receptacles, garbage receptacles?
Yes.
There were businesses there that were open?
Correct.
There was a Jamaican restaurant
No.
with an awning, green and yellow awning?
Yes. Benji?
And we see what appears to be Mr. Dulos take a rolled up item, walk across the sidewalk and lean it against the building, right?
Correct.
In plain sight.
Correct.
Did anybody watch the C4 cameras for a lengthier period of time to see what happened to that rolled up item?
I don't know what was watched and what was not watched.
You didn't watch it.
I did not watch it, no.
Michelle told you that it struck her as strange that Fotis Dulos would drive past the Starbucks to that location, didn't she?
Yes.
She also told you that she wasn't paying attention and because she was, talking to, or texting her family or friends, right?
That's what she told us, yes.
And she did tell you, though, that Dulos had previously thrown away debris in garbage pails and whatnot to get rid of stuff that was left over at his construction sites. Isn't that true? That she told you that?
So I'm not sure I agree with some elements of that. He had thrown away trash at the pond, and then there was one other instance that she mentioned down in New Canaan. But as far as going from trash can to trash can to trash can, we didn't get that information.
Well, I didn't suggest that. I'm just saying that she, on other occasions, knew he had taken trash to other than his own property and got rid of it.
Yes.
So on June 6th, you testified that this was an extra meeting that was arranged through State's Attorney Colangelo, right?
Yeah, my sergeant was advised by State Attorney Colangelo to contact Attorney Bowman, so.
Right, to set it up. And that this one took place in his office, right?
Yes.
And if we could just put the June 6th up for just a second, just a still of the interview room again. I just want to be clear. If you just move it, maybe, just move it someplace. I don't need to listen to it, but just slide it. Okay, stop right there. We're at, what's the time? 2:22:44. I just want to indicate, so behind Detective Clabby, there is a black kind of diagonal stick or stand there. You see that?
I do.
That was a second video tripod that was filming the encounter.
Yes.
I bring this up because at one point in the clip I showed you, it seemed like there was a split second of something that was edited or something. Just it skipped. You recall that in what we played before?
Yeah, it's a skip, but it wasn't edited.
Nothing was taken out, right?
Correct.
It's just that the way the first
nature of the
camera
recording.
was going, it flipped to a new file or folder, right?
Yes, I would go.
But the second camera, which was also filming, apparently wasn't saved by the state police. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. That was a fail-safe in case the first one didn't work.
Thank you. You referred to all of you, the officers referred to Mr. Colangelo as Richie, right?
I don't.
In the room, people were calling him Richie.
There were
right?
people who addressed him as such.
Just so we're clear, since he's not on the screen the whole time, we're talking about the same person, right?
Yes,
State's Attorney Richard Colangelo, right?
yes,
He was the supervisor of other prosecutors in the judicial district here down in Stamford, right?
at the time, yes.
At the time, of course.
Yes.
And it included the area where Buchanan is, right?
That's correct.
At one point on June 6th, you asked Michelle point blank, what does she think happened to Jennifer Dulos, right?
That's correct.
And she told you that her answer was based on things that Fotis had told her, right?
Yes, her initial response.
Yeah. Well, she told you, first of all, that she'd only seen Jennifer Dulos once in her life.
Correct.
She told you about this circumstance where she knew that there was issues about whether she could be present with the children and when Jennifer was there, so she waited outside the pond, remember?
Yes.
And that she was waiting there because she was told not to come in yet because the children hadn't left yet.
Yes.
And she recalls seeing, that was the one time she saw Jennifer drives very close and takes a picture of her, right?
Yes.
And tried to use that in court. That was what she knew about the circumstance.
That was her
right?
claim, yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of what she told you she had learned or heard from Fotis about Fotis's wife's circumstances, right?
Okay.
But she started explaining things that she heard were in the custody study report by the psychologist, right?
Dr. Herman?
Dr. Herman.
Yes.
And again, she told you there were certain mental health conditions. I don't want to specify anything about, there were certain apparent diagnoses of Jennifer that she'd heard about, right?
That was her claim, yes.
She told you that she'd heard from attorney Mike Rose about the report.
That the report was out?
Yes.
Yes.
And that Fotis went into some detail about that he should get custody, et cetera, et cetera. These were things, without going into it, I don't want to replay that, but she described all these things to you.
Yes.
Correct? And in fact, she told you that she made an appointment with one of the psychologists, Dr. Humphrey, that was involved in the case, to have him explain to her what all these things meant, right?
Yes.
And she hadn't seen Dr. Herman's report herself, right?
Correct.
You saw it, right?
I did not see it.
Wasn't it obtained as through a search warrant that the state police had it?
Object at this point, can we approach it?
Well, court sees no reason for an approach at this point. The question is, the preliminary question was, Michelle Troconis did not see the report herself. Is that correct? And the answer was yes. And what is now being offered in this court's view is a collateral matter, not relevant.
Is that really? How is that collateral? If I was decorating cupcakes, I'd be eating a lot more of them.
Whether these things were accurate or not, she told you that Fotis had told her these things, correct?
Yes.
And that Dr. Humphrey had sort of told her some of these same things, right?
I don't remember her saying that Dr. Humphrey
Thank
told
you
her.
for the membership.
Well, you do remember saying she went for an appointment to see Dr. Herman because she was concerned about some of these things?
Yes, I remember
That if she would have to deal with Jennifer Dulos in the future, she wanted to know all about her?
Yes.
We'll get to this in a minute.
Right after this, she also told you that she got annoyed or angry when she found out that Fotis had actually been down at Jennifer's house that Wednesday, right?
Yes.
And she found this out listening to the speakerphone call from Jacob Pytranker, who called Fotis and Fotis put it on speaker, right?
That's correct.
And she told Fotis that he should just let the matter be handled through the courts, didn't she? She told you that she had said that, right?
Yes.
And she told you that she had told Fotis that things are going to work out great because of that report you're telling me about.
My recollection was Fotis was the one saying everything was going to work out great because of the report.
And she said that he seemed happy at that point, didn't he?
She did say that, yes.
And he was telling his other friends that everything was going to work out, didn't he? She told you he said that.
Yes.
At one point, though, you told Michelle that Fotis was manipulating people. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And that he had lied to many people. right?
Yes,
And he was using people, right?
yes,
And when you asked her though what happened, she said she was afraid after she disappeared. When you're asking her, what do you think happened? She said she was afraid she was going to come after her and her daughter Nicole, didn't she?
yes, I remember that, yes.
Yeah. And that was based on what she was told by Fotis, right? About Jennifer.
About, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there are other things she also related about her disappearing when she was younger and living under an assumed name. These are things she related to you that had been told to her, right?
Fotis told her those things, yes, whether they were accurate or not.
Exactly, but she believed them, right?
Objection.
She
Sustained.
said she believed them, right?
Yes,
You also told her, though, there were body parts in those garbage bags that he dropped off on Albany Avenue, didn't you?
Just object, Your Honor. Mischaracterizes.
Well, what the court recalls from the video is not whether this witness said they were body parts, but one of the investigators said they were body parts.
I'll rephrase the question. In your presence, did Detective Clabby say that there were body parts in the garbage bags that he was throwing out on Albany Avenue?
I don't remember who said it.
Could have been you.
What I said was it was my concern, our concern that was the case. That's what I said.
Okay.
I don't think we told her specifically
Right.
that there were body parts. There may have been.
You had already been aware of what was in those garbage bags and those receptacles and garbage bags at the time of that interview, though, right?
Of those that we retrieved.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So she got very upset and started crying when you told her that, right?
It appeared to be, yeah. Yes.
Was that also a technique as part of the interrogation technique? Whether you thought it might be true or not, you tell her this to elicit a reaction.
The reaction we were trying to elicit is truthfulness.
She also told you that Fotis had a Porsche at 585 Deercliff, didn't she?
Yes,
And that was the first time you'd even heard about there being a Porsche, right? You didn't even know its importance at that point, right?
it's incorrect.
You knew he owned one.
Jennifer owned the 2009 Porsche Cayenne.
That belonged to Jennifer Dulos, the one that was at 585 Deercliff Road?
That was registered to Jennifer.
Oh, okay, but were you looking for that car at that point?
That was one of the vehicles on our radar, yes.
You didn't ask her about it, she told you about it and where it was, right?
Yes,
By the way, Detective Clabby also told Michelle in that interview, in one of the two interviews, that Jennifer's 2017 Chevy Suburban was covered in blood in the driver's seat. Do you remember him saying that?
I don't know that he said it was covered in blood. He said the person or persons involved in this crime would have been covered in blood.
Would have been, but the driver's seat wasn't covered in blood of that Suburban, was it?
Not that we could determine.
Even the so-called stain on the steering wheel wasn't in fact blood, was it?
Well, I'm going to object, Your Honor. Lack of personal knowledge foundation.
You,
And he's offering it for its truth. It's hearsay.
Well, the court will sustain the objection concerning that question, but will not foreclose the avenue.
Detective Clabby told Michelle at that same time that the steering wheel was covered in blood, right?
I don't remember his wording, whether he said was or would have been.
Would have been, okay. But no blood was recovered from the steering wheel, was it?
I don't have that information in front of me. I can't remember at this time.
Was telling this to Michelle part of a technique to elicit more information, or was that just a mistake?
Well, I object, Your Honor. He hasn't. The question assumes that Detective Kimball just indicated that there was no blood on the steering wheel. He's indicated he doesn't have that information in front of him. So to ask whether or not it was a tactic or a mistake assumes facts, not evidence.
Well, perhaps the question is taking into account more facts than one can assume. If the question is, was there a discussion with Michelle Troconis about blood being on the steering wheel? That would be the threshold question.
Which I believe was elicited. This was now the next question.
And the next question again, counsel.
All right, I'll rephrase the next question.
And Judge Whitney, I thought that the testimony was Detective Kimball could not recall whether or not Detective Clabby said there was blood on the steering wheel or there would have been. So I don't agree with counsel's suggestion that he has indicated that there was blood on the steering wheel.
Well, perhaps the court did not understand the question and the response. The general area is blood on the steering wheel. This witness cannot testify that he reviewed any documents that indicated there was blood on the steering wheel. That's how the court heard the testimony. And so what would be the next question, counsel?
Whether Detective Clabby said there would have been or there was blood, the purpose of asking Michelle Troconis, let me rephrase the question. Whether or not there was blood or was not blood that you recall on that steering wheel, the purpose of telling Michelle Troconis this was part of your efforts to get her to elicit more information from her, correct?
I just object, Your Honor. I was asking him to speculate as to Detective Clavy's mindset.
Well, if the question was posed by Detective Clavy, this witness cannot testify concerning Detective Clavy's motivation, so it's a matter of no foundation sustained.
Did you know why Detective Clavy made that statement to Mr. Troconis or not?
No, I did not.
So was that all news to you when he said that to her about there would have been blood on the steering wheel of the 2017 Suburban?
I'm not sure what you mean by, was that news?
Were you surprised when Detective Clavy
Yeah,
said that
it's
to her?
information you didn't know.
I'm going to object, Your Honor, relevance grounds.
Well, because the area being explored is police interrogation techniques, a question concerning whether one officer's question took the other officer by surprise,
Is
the court will allow.
yeah, you have
Please ask
to.
again, Counselor.
Yes. Were you unaware or surprised when Detective Clavy suggested that to Mr. Combs about there being, perhaps being blood on the steering wheel?
Unaware or surprised? I was not surprised.
That he said that to her?
Correct.
Did you have any
Bullshit.
information as of that moment that there in fact was blood on the steering wheel of the Suburban?
Judge, I just object, ask and answer at this point.
Well,
Mm,
the question has been asked. There's no documentation that there was blood on the steering wheel. That's how the court understood the testimony. And the fact that Detective Clavy said there was blood on the steering wheel does not allow this witness to determine what was Detective Clavy's
what?
state of mind when he said it.
Hold on, I need to go back.
Interrogation techniques. The area being explored, for one, the court will allow.
I need to hear this again, guys. Sorry.
Please ask again, Counselor.
Yes. Were you unaware or surprised when Detective Clavy suggested that to Mr. Combs about there being, perhaps being blood on the steering wheel?
Unaware or surprised? I was not surprised.
That he said that to her?
Correct.
Did you have any information as of that moment that there in fact was blood on the steering wheel of the Suburban?
Judge, I just object, ask and answer at this point.
No, it's not. Did you have any
Question has
information?
been asked. There's no document.
Yeah, that's not a that's a stain, or I mean that should be allowed.
That there was blood on the steering wheel. That's how the court understood the testimony. And the fact that Detective Clavy said there was blood on the steering wheel does not allow this witness to determine what was Detective Clavy's state of mind when he said it. So asked and answered is sufficient sustained.
But I was asking now about this witness's understanding, knowledge.
Yeah, that's
about
not
Detective
asked and
Clavy's.
answered though.
Well, testimony has been this witness did not
Oh, that's
claim
bullshit.
to know that there was blood on the steering wheel.
That's not asked and
Okay.
answered though.
By the way, between June 2nd and June 6th, Michelle Troconis had not been back at Fort Jefferson Crossing. Is that correct?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Well, the questions now are weaving in and out of the video and the nature of the investigation. So the question now is, had Michelle Troconis returned to Fort Jefferson Crossing between, as the court understood the question, June 2nd and June 6th?
I'll just note, Your Honor, there's a ton of evidence from the video itself that indicates what the answer is, and I'm asking this question to confirm with this witness what we all heard on the video.
Well, what the court recalls being stated in the video was that Michelle Troconis wanted to return to get certain items. But the question posed by counsel is, did she return to get certain items?
It was actually in the negative that she had not returned in between before June 6th.
Well, the court does not know what the relevance of the question is. Sustained.
If you don't know the relevance, let him fucking
In the video,
explore
we
it.
hear Mr.
Why would you-
Colangelo giving Ms. Troconis permission to go in to get clothing for herself and her daughter the next day or the day after the 6th, correct?
Correct.
And she had indicated that she had not been allowed back since May 31st. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Eventually, you know that, by the way, did you attempt to speak to Mr. Dulos during this time frame?
Did I attempt personally?
Yes.
No.
You did not?
No.
You had been told he was not going to talk to detectives though, right?
Yes,
So you didn't try to talk to him.
that's correct.
And you learned more and more about Fotis Dulos each time that you were interviewing Mr. Troconis, right? In between, correct?
More and more about Fotis Dulos?
About Fotis Dulos, from about him each time you interviewed Mr. Troconis, right?
She gave additional information about Fotis with each interview.
Well, I'm not asking you necessarily
Okay, so
about
what are
what
you-
she told you. I'm talking about the investigation.
Oh, I'm
had
sorry.
uncovered
Yes, yes.
Other stuff about him,
That's
right?
correct.
Mr. McGinnis started to talk about the August 13th, 2019 interview, correct?
Correct.
The other day, but we haven't shown that. That was also recorded, right?
Yes,
At some point, I suppose we'll see it, but the jury hasn't seen it yet. That's with you here, correct?
that's correct. Yes.
And you do know that Mr. Dulos was able to move back into Fort Jefferson Crossing, right?
Judge, just gonna object, calls for hearsay, it's also outside the scope at this point.
Well, the court sees it at this point as outside of the scope whether Fotis Dulos was allowed to move back into Fort Jefferson Crossing, so that's sustained. It's about 1 o'clock. What we plan to do is take our lunch and recess from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not discuss the case. Thank you.
So, all right, guys. Well, we don't have enough time to finish up before we have to do the local show. So we're going to do like day 11. And tomorrow, I probably, if I get things right, we'll be able to plow through this in the afternoon and catch up. But that was great work by defense counsel. We now know that whole thing about, oh, they stopped 30 times. Well, no, that was actually wrong. And you were trying to screw with her, but it turns out you thought you had the goods on her, but you were wrong. So she was right. They only stopped a couple of times. And then we get into the fight of, well, there's a bunch of more times. Oh, what video? Well, you see the video, you know it's out there. Is it really? And what do we know now? Oh, that video doesn't really exist. And he got all mad. Yeah, this makes Michelle look real good now. Michelle was providing you information. She drew a map, a detailed map. Here's all the places he could have gone. We've gone and played around on. Yeah, this looks really good for her. This looks really, really good for her. This is how you do this. You know, like I said, it helps having all this stuff in your back pocket, but he's just, boom, you know, just feeding it to him, and the cop is not liking that. So, Breezen says he didn't only stop a couple of times. Are we watching the same thing? Well, they said 30, and it was clearly a lot less. It's more like 5 at most. They only have a couple they can show. So they don't know where he went. Who knows what happened? I mean, the answer is they don't know, so they can only say she stopped a couple of times. And then that issue about, yeah, now is it, they can see that video Baron weekend. Did she actually touch that envelope? Is it clear she touched it? I don't think so. You know, what was she doing? And I mean, they don't have, like, yes, they're cross-examining. They don't have great answers for all this crap. So this is actually a really good job by the defense. Yeah, she kind of got caught lying, but not necessarily. There's enough issue here that the state's not 100% correct in what they did to her. So I think there's enough there. You know, there's enough. Look at it, bitch. Ow. No, this is not that bad. This is not bad. This is good. Michelle's looking better. She's looking a lot better, in my opinion. Cleaning off her finger on a public sidewalk? Well, if you got shit on you, you might wipe it off on the ground. I mean, like, literally, if you accidentally had a dog turd that, like, was on your finger, would you just walk around with it? Or if you're standing on the sidewalk, try to wipe it off? I mean, like, whatever the hell it was. She had her hands admitted to it. Yeah, but you know, it's not clear what she did with it or how that all went about, what happened there. It's not clear she knows based on what they're saying here because they didn't have good information when they talked to her and grilled her. And all this crap they did, I think they've got some problems with. So the state's poking some good holes, and the state did a good job about that today. So, yeah, Michelle's looking a little better, but, you know, she ain't home free. So we'll see what tomorrow brings, but I think they're doing a good job. I mean, they're beating them up. True, but it didn't make her look better. It made her look better. It made the state's case look shittier, and that's good enough. I mean, and that if it makes the state's case look worse, that makes her look better, in my opinion. So I'm sure that the attorney is going to be able to get a lot more out of this. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to go start up local. So give me 1 minute here. We'll wrap this up, and I will see you guys there. Also, potentially Tilly has a question though. Do they have to defend both Fotis and Michelle? No, but I mean, by defending Michelle, you're kind of poking holes in the Fotis. Part of Fotis' part of the arguments for they'd use against Fotis, but ultimately Fotis, he doesn't have an explanation for anything because he was doing shit on his own. Because like he would have to explain why he threw all that stuff away, and he would be in trouble. But yes, by partially defending her, you're partially helping him. But he would, there's nowhere for him to run. I would say so. All right, guys. We're gonna start locals up, and I'll see you guys over there. And that's at potentiallycriminal.locals.com. I'll see you guys there. We'll have some hang out and let's talk about tonight. So I'll see you guys over there. Potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Good night, guys. We'll see you tomorrow here. We'll get day 11 and a half going.